Welcome to U Version 2 podcast with me, your host, Brendan McCauley. And today we have a special guest, Geoff Seow, all the way from Australia. Am I right, Geoff?
That's right. Thanks for having me today, Brendan.
It's a pleasure to have you. And we look forward to having a conversation with you today, Geoff, and learning from your experiences and in life and sharing your journey and how we can learn from it and adapt some of those ideas and experiences into our own lives. So obviously, as I suggested, we're going to talk about happiness and personal life experiences. Some events may come up in the discussion, allow them to flow. If you're not comfortable sharing, we can remove it, but please relax and enjoy this moment together. It's just like having a conversation with a friend. Hopefully that's the way you'll feel.
Of course.
So, before we start, would you like to tell us something about Geoff?
For sure. So I am the founder of Mind Access Life Coaching. And what my service does is I basically help unfulfilled millennials get clear on their life direction. And to do this, we help you overcome self-doubt. And I have my own coaching program, which is called the Mind Access Method. And I have two programs called the Keystone Program and the Premium Program. And I help unfulfilled millennials around the world get really clear on what they want to do and help them actually get from point A to point B.
Very good. Now, when you say millennials, I'm thinking of my own kids. Maybe they could sign up. Is that kids from the noughties?
No, it's everyone from 26 to 41,
Okay.
which is based up middle of the 1980s.
Okay. Damn, I'm gonna have to get them to go somewhere else. It's the joy of teenager life. You know yourself. You think you know everything at that stage, but it's life's a journey.
Really
So Geoff, simple question. Happiness. What does it mean to Geoff?
Happiness to me is a bit of a complex thing, and here's why. There are two ways that happiness works, right? So in the past, I've been told by someone that I've met on my travels that you can choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice. Like at any point in time, we have the option to choose to be happy. We can literally just change our entire mood if we choose, okay, I'm going to focus on the positives. And if you think of the positives, you will become happy all the time. So it's an easy way to hack happiness, right? But the problem is when you get addicted to happiness, because happiness is not something that can be a constant all the time, because if it was, then we wouldn't be living in any kind of reality. We need to have ups and downs because that's how we grow. So we can choose happiness, but sometimes happiness is not the best possible way, because that's life. Life is going to have ups and downs. And to me, in the past, I was a drug addict a few years ago. I was chasing happiness the whole time. Only when I learned that you don't chase happiness, you just choose happiness, that's when things really start to shift.
Excellent. Or were you chasing pleasure?
They'll come as one and the same. Pleasure provides happiness, but it's a weak form of happiness. It's a form of happiness that glosses over interior happiness.
Very good. Very good. And as you say, my happiness different from your happiness, different from someone else's. So it's all a personal perception, but very insightful, I would say, very real. Could you reflect or tell us on a recent time, or sorry, not a recent time, a time that you were really, really happy? And what was that?
The time that I was really, really happy was when I have been on holidays with my friends in the past, and we've gone to places like Bali, Thailand, or we've just gone camping, just really, really happy when time had no meaning. I find that a lot of our happiness is tied to time. When we live in a timeless sense, like say, for example, traveling, walking around, visiting, camping, fishing, and you're just laughing and you don't worry about appointments, you don't worry about anything, that to me is bliss. And I've experienced that many times in my life, fortunately. And now that COVID is wrapping up in Australia, hopefully there'll be many more international trips as well.
That's a good point. And a bit of a common theme at the start there in your description, you had fun with social groups when you were doing certain things. And that is one way that we can experience happiness, I believe, by social groups and sharing together and sharing those fun times. And as you mentioned it, obviously your side of the world, it's easy to get to Bali in Thailand. I did a travel around the world in 1998 and had a lot of fun in Thailand and coming down that particular section into Australia. Lovely part of the world. I have it on one of my life goals to maybe take the wife to that area. So it is an intention, and I would like to be happy over there as well. So there's something you mentioned earlier on there when you were describing happiness that I agree with. Because if we're constantly chasing it and trying to stay on a plateau of happiness, it isn't realistic. And sometimes we can see pleasure and as a way of happiness, whereas they're quite two different things in a visceral and ethereal way. But would you say that happiness can fade with time?
You mean would I say that happiness is correlated with time, like interrelated with it?
That can we be happy all the time, or does it fade? Or if we're in a happy space, does that emotion fade with time?
I think that you can be happy all the time if you are fulfilled, because you see, being happy all the time is not about like clicking your feet and like having the best, happiest day of your life, right? Because that's why people get addicted to drugs, because they want to be happy or they want to run away from the misery. But fulfillment is a little bit different. It's about, you can be happy even when you're going through the struggle. You can be happy even when you're pushing yourself every day and you're being challenged. Why? Because you know that your journey is taking you to the outcome you seek. So for me personally, I'm all about fulfillment, and it's all about my coaching style as well, because I know that fulfillment is that long term. It's about, you can be happy with having less, so you can be happy having more. It doesn't matter, because you have the foundation that allows you to work towards this outcome that you seek, right? And fulfillment is not about like, oh, I've received this car and that's it, or I've received this house and that's it. No, it's about continuously doing something that provides an impact, kind of like what you do with YouVersion 2, what I do with my work as well. It's all about providing impact, and that gives us an interior sense of wealth, an interior sense of happiness, right? So I don't believe that you can be happy all the time, but I do believe that you can have ups and downs and still manage to come back up and grow.
Yeah, someone recently said to me, how can you truly experience happiness if you don't know what it's like to be sad? She said the roller coaster, the highs and the lows. And it's interesting. And also another friend, I met him in Toastmasters. I joined Toastmasters when I moved to Italy here, English-speaking Toastmasters, and he had started a sort of a venture of he called it little happy drips, to maintain that sort of happiness so that it doesn't fade. Little drips, little happiness in life, sharing, caring, just little, as you suggested, fulfillment. If we get habits in our lives that are good, positive habits, that will ensure somewhere along our week or our month, we'll reach a point of fulfillment by helping others or doing things. So I love his concept of the happy drip, because it's constant. A drip is constant, but it's not an intense overflow. It's just enough that we can cope with. The question of we mentioned at the start, I didn't want to introduce Geoff with all the things that he is in the sense of how I perceive, or the world may perceives, because who we are, when we meet each other, if we met each other across in a bar or at a restaurant or out and about, sometimes how we introduce ourselves, if we're not self-aware, there are specific ways we will introduce ourselves classically. So in the sense of Geoff talking about I am, or the phrase I am, it's powerful words. How would Geoff finish that sentence of I am?
I am a work in progress. I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to learn more, and not get better as a, like a figurative, metaphorical thing, but I'm just trying to improve myself in all criterion of life, whether it's fitness or whether it's mentality or whether it's emotional IQ, whether it's learning about global events, whether it's learning about other people. Um, I I don't think that I am anything, because the moment that you fix yourself to a solid identity, that's kind of where you put yourself in a box. It's like, it's interesting you said that, actually, because I've thought about this many times and talked about it before too, right? So, when you meet someone at say like a restaurant, or you meet them at a social event, you say, hey, and then you introduce, shake hands, and they might say, hi, I'm Brent and I'm an engineer. And that's your role, that's your box, right? And then you talk things about related to their work, because you put yourself in a box and that constrains you. But I could say that I'm a life coach, which I am. I could say that I'm a solopreneur, which I am. But all of those things are just attributes, which are what I really am trying to do. Is I'm just a work in progress. I'm learning.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's something over the years, come to realize that we just classically do introduce yourself. We associate who we are with what we do. And typically that's our day job, or whatever it is, oh, hi, yeah, Brendan McCauley here. I'm an engineer and I do this. But the real Brendan McCauley, the real Geoff, may love gardening, may love hiking, may love surfing, the things they actually love to do is not necessarily going to their day job all the time. Now, when you get to a space that you love your day job, well, then you've reached a good point. But it's insightful, I would say, and I would say for anyone listening that look into the concept of who are you, because you are not what you do, as in your job, that defines you. That doesn't define you, because when you look at yourself and the things that you like, or the passions you have, or what you like to actually do apart from the money income things, you could be quite surprised with actually who you are. I tell the story sometimes of how I first introduced myself to my wife. I said I was a DJ. It wasn't a lie. I was a DJ, but I only did it on Saturdays, Saturday mornings, for a radio station, and I wasn't getting paid. But it was something I enjoyed doing. But we play with the concept. So you mentioned, I think you do something that you love. You've been a life coach. But could I ask you in the present moment, what do you devote your time, your energy, and your money upon?
For me, it's my life coaching. That's what I do. Well, actually, there's two things. Actually, there's two things I devote myself to: my life coaching, and also my clothing brand. Right. So these are the two things, professional wise, and personally wise. It's my health. I love going to the gym, and I love learning stuff. So I read different books, watch different videos, and of course socializing. But mainly those two things professionally.
The reading books is a good one, isn't it? In the sense that in this day and age, it's so easy to be distracted by so much other technology. But I found sometimes getting absorbed in a book, we can learn so much more and learn from others' insightful experiences in the past, because as it's the ancient text says, there's nothing new under the sun. But yet we think we know it all now, and we're learning it all now. So there's plenty to learn from reading books, folks. It is handy to pick up phones or tablets or laptops and learn that way. But because it was about 5 years ago, I just thought to myself, I don't really read books anymore, and I thought I better start. So I started buying, fiction books or certain things just for the purpose of reading, and then slowly, okay, if I spend time reading this, why don't I spend time reading some books that might actually be non-fiction, or might help me, or might serve me, and slowly went in a different direction. And when you start reading some of those things, fantastic. You're getting information that you can implement in your life immediately, which will help in a positive way. So I like the reading one, Geoff. Encourage everyone to pick it up. I personally think there's something nice about just holding a real book, because I know we can read Kindle and various things and different methodologies, but a book, I like, you can flip it, you can put the tab in the corner to remember where you finished, and you can put it back. or you get underlying stuff to remind yourself. So you mentioned how you're spending your time and your efforts at the minute. What is it that you would like to get what point would you like to get yourself to with those efforts?
So what I would like to be able to do is to be able to do exactly what I'm doing right now, but in many different areas of the world. Like I really enjoy what I do right now. Like I coach, I do public speaking, I do mentoring, I do my clothing brand, I lecture at universities. I'm pretty happy with what I do right now. The only thing is I would love to do this at many different countries. I wouldn't change anything about what I do. Just maybe it would be nice to do it in, say, Italy, or to do it in the UK, or to do it in Africa, or to do it in Israel, wherever it is. I would like to be able to do what I do.
Try and reach more. I would
Yeah,
say
and
there's certainly plenty of us in the European nations that could do with a bit of life coaching and de-stress the lives, take the pressure off, take the foot off the valve and chill out a bit more. In your life, would you say that is there many things that sort of worry you or you think upon, or at the minute would you even worry? Do you worry?
Not really. Not really, because the reason I don't worry is because I find that when I stop doing the things that I do and I spend too much time overthinking, that's when I start worrying. But because I've got a good idea of where I want to be, I have a good plan to follow, and I show up and do it every single day. I don't really worry because like I do it consistently, and I've been doing this consistently for so long that to me that doesn't even have to be anything other than second nature. If there's one thing I worry about, maybe it's like, how do I travel to different countries with ease? That would be the thing that I worry about. How would I be able to move fluidly across the world? Because right now it's a little bit difficult with the pandemic, But on a personal level, don't really worry.
That's for sure. That's fantastic, and there's a reason why, folks. Geoff doesn't worry. He's aware that worrying really doesn't achieve much in your life. So it's we're concentrating our thoughts on something that may or may not happen in the future. So why bother? Let's bring ourselves back into the present moment and deal with what we have now, because there's enough challenges in the current present moment than worrying about tomorrow. And for some people, they may have plenty of worries, but to counteract that, sometimes it's good for us to find ways to relax or seek comfort. Is there any particular ways, Geoff, that you seek comfort, or what do you do to relax, to take that chill?
To me, it would definitely just be hanging out with some friends, eating a nice meal. I love going out eating a nice meal, and like it's probably one of my favorite things every week. And going out into nature, doing something complex in nature, like maybe going for a hike, going for a long run as long as possible, going to the beach during summer. I love nature. It gives me energy, right? Something about being in the sand, the earth, the sun, it just rejuvenates you. And being around other people makes me relax as well. But that's pretty much what I do to kind of wind down.
I can 100% agree about the nature bit. When you say nature and you mentioned sand and sun, does that imply you live close to the coast?
Very close, actually, about 15 minutes.
Fantastic. There's nothing better from my point of view of jumping into the ocean and going for a swim. I'm a bit of a sea person. Where I grew up in Northern Ireland, and it was very close to the north coast. It's not as warm, obviously, as the water's not as warm as where you live, but it was just nice to go to the coast and see that vast ocean. And obviously you can see sunsets and all sorts of stuff, or you can boogie board in it, or you can play in it, or you relax. But I certainly do love it. Where I live now is very close to the mountains, and right now I'm looking out. I can see the Alps as the sun rises, and just sort of there's a bit of snow on the top of them, and I wish I could show it to you, to be honest with you. It's just beautiful, and that's just nature. It's that nature is is inspiring, and it does something for us as humans. It's really, I would say, it's healed me in the last so many years. And one thing during you mentioned about COVID and how it's affecting our lives. When we were in lockdown here in Italy, where I live, fortunately enough, is a good sized garden, and we're close to a forest beside us. So we weren't necessarily restricted to our structural space. We could get out into nature, and that in itself just really helped us all in the family. So I love that. I love the fact you mentioned nature. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a thing about, well, when we go out into the sun and we produce vitamin D, that allows us to wind down and relax. And when we connect to the earth, it allows us to, you know how when we have different electrical cables, we need an earthing cable. You need something to earth a circuit. Well, same for humans too. If we are not earthed in that sense, then we start to lose our perspective. We technically lose our grounding. So going out into nature and basically allowing yourself to earth and getting back into it is what provides that level of happiness. Because right now we live in a society where people are indoors all the time. We live in a society where people live in high-rise apartments, no connection to the earth, no connection to the sun, the wind, the water. And that is bad for our minds. It's bad for mental health. We're not built like this. We're built to be in nature.
It's such a true thing. And you know, in the cities, as you say, high rise and things like that, the first thing a lot of people try to do when they have free time is escape to nature, escape to parks, escape to the sea, escape to the mountains. So there's something very, very true in that. And maybe that's why I enjoy gardening so much, because you can also see from your efforts, the harvest of your efforts. You know, when you plant or you seed and things grow, it's quite descriptive of how we can talk about life. You know, planting seeds, nurturing them, reaping the harvest, etc., or cleaning the weeds.
Absolutely.
So I love it. The earlier on when you were talking about happiness and various things, you mentioned fulfillment. So, Geoff, what do you advise that we should maybe do to achieve joy, to achieve that pleasure or happiness or fulfillment in our lives? Any particular things that come to mind?
Yeah, the number one thing you've got to get really clear upon is who you want to be as a person, right? Because what you do is the vehicle to help you get to that particular point. So, you know, like what we're both doing right now, we're working in a forum, we're sharing our thoughts to an international audience that might be able to gain inspiration or actionable steps, right? And that person that you want to be will do certain actions, because depending on the person, if, for example, if you want to provide good to the world, if you want to have a positive impact, you'll need a vehicle. In this case, it might be your podcast, it might be my coaching. But we know deep down the kind of person that we are, and the kind of that's why what we do reflects who we are. So you've got to get clear on who you want to be. Do you want to be destructive? Do you want to be chaotic? Or do you want to bring good to the world? Do you want to have a positive impact? You got to pick first, and you've got to know what kind of person you want to be to the world, not to how others see you, but to how you see yourself.
Yeah,
others will see you based on your actions, right? Once you're clear on that, then you've got to get really clear on what it is you're going to do to spread that best version of yourself to the world, whether it's helping others, whether it's providing a positive impact. You've got to pick your vehicle of choice. And when you know these two things and you know very clearly the outcome, then you can reverse engineer all of it. You can reverse engineer, if I want to be doing this in the next 10 years, what do I have to do along the way? And when you understand that fulfillment is not like, oh, I'm fulfilled right now, but I will be in the future if I do exactly what I want to do, then you integrate all the steps in between. And that's where the happiness comes from. Happiness comes from maybe launching your podcast. Happiness comes from maybe, you know, having people tell you that your podcast is impactful, right? These are important steps along the way. They're milestones that show that you're on the right path towards your fulfillment. But you've got to get clear on the end target first and then reverse engineer. And then that's how you're going to have happiness over time.
And on that path, one of the key things I would suggest everyone is enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not like, oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, then I will be fulfilled. In that process, in our path, that's where we have to enjoy it, because that is that journey is life. Because sometimes, and I'm guilty of myself. Oh, if I do this and focus, and if it comes to Friday, then that's going to be great. I'm going to be happy. Well, enjoy the process of preparing that or doing that to get to that point, because that's all a learning and experience. Life isn't a learning. Flip me, I'm learning stuff every day. It's surprising the power of that simple sentence. So I love this conversation, Geoff. It's very insightful, and hopefully people listening to us can pick up some tips and ideas that are simple that they can implement in their lives. I think one thing is key. It's having that self-realization and awareness to make that little change, because that little change will then point you in a different direction, like the tack of a ship or a sailing. You catch the wind and it brings you in the right direction. At least you've made that change, that simple little step. So to wrap things up, no more hard questions. I don't think they were hard, hopefully. Just a little quick fire, 3 questions. Answer them as you will. Geoff, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my life.
Fantastic. A great thing to be grateful for.
I'm alive and speaking to you. I'm grateful for it.
Are your relationships going well?
Yeah, very well.
Great stuff. And how are you making the world better?
With my coaching and with the way that I put myself out there. I don't expect everyone to have to do anything with what I speak about, but the things that I learn and the things I integrate, I give away as much as I can for free. I do free workshops, I do free videos, I give away a free book on my website, my Instagram. I just give things away for free. And if you want to work with me, let's work together. But I give away as much as I can for free, because if you can start making small changes along the way, then I've already done something that's positive for the world.
Yeah. And I would highly recommend everyone to go and check out Geoff on all his social platforms and website. I'll put the links in here, and it's inspirational to say the least. Little tidbits, little ideas, but there's multiple things there and great suggestions on how we can help ourselves. As I was scrolling through some stuff this morning, I was even inspired. I was going, oh, that's a great topic. That's a great topic. Well, everyone should hear about that. So, Geoff, it's been my pleasure to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate your time, because I know life can be busy in our schedule. And here in the early morning of Italy, I need to get ready and go and bring my kids to school, while you're probably getting ready to go and have your evening dinner or go for a walk in the sunshine. I don't know. But it's amazing how we can communicate across the world. It's fantastic. I'm grateful, simple things like technology, being able to communicate in this way. It's quite surreal if you think about it. If we were talking about the concept in 1970.
It's like basically teleportation. We're in the same room, essentially. It blows my mind sometimes too.
So, Geoff, I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you again.
Likewise, Bren. It's been great to be here. Thank you for having me.